Hello, algoritmers and soulmates. I'm Al Reynolds, and this is my new show on my YouTube channel called The Court of Public Opinion, the place where you, the people's voice, can and will be heard. Now, if you're new to the courtroom, make sure you grab a seat, and also you might want to grab a pencil and pad. But don't forget, in all of this, hit that like button. It's very important that you guys hit the like button. If you have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. If you are subscribed, please hit the share button and invite all your friends. And please don't forget to leave a comment because we like to know about you, how you're feeling and what you're thinking, and we like the engagement. Now, for all of the newbies, I gotta give you a warning. Don't be alarmed. Think of the Court of Public Opinion as Nancy Grace meets Rapid Fire meets Fox Soul's Face Off. Yes, this courtroom, it can be disruptive. This courtroom can be loud. There's going to be hollering. There's going to be screaming. There's going to be disagreeing and maybe agreeing. We're going to talk over each other, but we're going to always be informative and give you something that you can use in your personal life. Now, buckle up. I'm your host and judge, Al Reynolds. And today, let's see the two legal beagles that I have brought with me this Thursday. First up, we have the incredibly beautiful Symone Redwine, attorney Redwine. Welcome.
Hello, hello. Good to see you again.
Joining Symone tonight, we have the criminal defense attorney, Brion Ross. He's back from last night. Brion Ross, welcome.
How you doing?
All right, attorney. All right, counselor. So this is the lineup. OJ died at 76 to the battle of cancer, but Nicole Brown Simpson's estate still wants to get paid. Let's find out if legally he owes them anything. Anthony Edwards paid $100,000 for an agreed upon abortion, but the abortion was never performed. Is this, even though it was over text, is this considered a breach of contract? Jerry Jones, the owner of the famous Cowboys football team, is being ordered by the courts to see if he's shooting blanks or not. Xscape, the singing group, is trying to escape Latasha. We're going to see if they can legally do it. And then we're going to go inside the fight over Michael Jackson's $2 billion estate between his mother and her grandson. And then we're going to wrap up the night with Ben McLemore, who's been in the league for a while, who's sacrificing his $13 million contract and turning it in maybe for 20 years in prison. All right, all of that here tonight on the Court of Public Opinion. Welcome, soulmates and algoritmers. And also for tonight, make sure we put those red wine glasses emojis in the chat for Symone, and put those briefcases in the chat for Attorney Ross. And let's not forget to put those facts, that's right, FAX machine, in the emojis in the chat for me. All right, let's get started, everybody. We have such an interesting night, and this is just perfect for a Thursday night, right? So we're going to start. First, I would like to say I'm going from the court. We're going to send our condolences to O.J. Simpson and his family on the death of O.J. Simpson, who made it very clear about a year ago that he was battling with prostate cancer. Unfortunately, he fell victim and has lost his life to this cancer, and we want to extend all our condolences to him and his family. But legally, let's talk about it. Legally, now that he has passed along, Nicole Brown Simpson's estate is saying, hey, buddy, you owe us $33 million, and to date, you've only paid us $132,000. So, Attorney Redwine, please tell us, now that OJ has passed, does his family still owe Nicole Brown Simpson's
Absolutely.
money?
They absolutely do. So it's no different than I've had instances as a civil attorney where my client was injured by a serious, like a major vehicle, a commercial truck. And at the time of trial, or actually before trial, when I was preparing to file the lawsuit, the driver died. So therefore, I simply sued his estate. So what's going to happen here is the family of Nicole Brown Simpson, as well as Ron Goldman, they're entitled to go after the assets of the estate, which he's got millions, we know, in his homestead. And I'll let Attorney Brion talk about that part.
Well, and he had a house in Florida for a while after the trial. And the reason you buy a house in Florida, people, is because Florida has one of the strongest homesteads in the country. What is a homestead? A homestead is the government's way of giving you protection from civil judgments. So if you own a house in Florida and you go and you take out a credit card from American Express and you bill up $50,000 and then you don't pay it, American Express in other states can force you to sell your house to collect that judgment. But in Florida, where they have a strong homestead, you cannot be forced to sell your house to pay off that credit card. That's what OJ did. He lost his civil trial after they basically said he murdered his wife as a civil matter. He won the criminal trial, but they sued him civilly and he lost that. So when he lost that, what do? Move to Florida, buy the biggest house you can afford because there's no limitation on the homestead. And that's what he did.
Okay, so let me ask you this, both attorneys, Redwine and Ross. So, okay, we know that protects his house. What about his other assets? Like for him, his memorabilia. Remember, he had a lot of money wrapped up in his memorabilia. Also, what about his retirement accounts? What about money that he has in the bank and all of that? Two questions. Does the money in those accounts or value of those accounts pay down his debt first? And then the civil case is like third down on the list of people to get paid? Or does all of his estate transfer to the family or however he may have it set up? I'm thinking he probably got his financial affairs in order this past year.
Yeah.
Or does it go to the estate in the trust, and then the trust is liable for paying out the civil costs after all his other costs are paid? And last question, do the kids see anything?
Oh, that's a lot of questions. Brian, you answer? I would say the answer is the kids are probably not going to see a darn thing. If they're able to, it would be something from the trust. But the issue is this. The way debts and so forth go is it goes by what's called lien priority.
Right.
And this debt is 30 some years old. So it is older than likely any other debt that he probably has. So that one will go first. And because of the age of the debt, it's accrued a bunch of interest. Brian, I think you had those figures.
Well, I think it was $33 million in 1994. And now because he hasn't paid, it's ballooned to $96 million he owes.
No way.
Yeah, almost $100 million he owes to these people.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So because of the accrued interest, interest wasn't the initial cost. So does that change the position of the debt?
No. The interest is court-ordered interest. So that is why it's really important when people say, hey, go ahead and sue the person, get a judgment, because the interest accrues until that judgment is paid off. And in situations like this, now it looks like the memorabilia, all those things will have to be sold just to pay this debt. So even if he has a will, it's not going to matter because the estate is who you don't give things to. It is O.J. Simpson's estate that has to owe this debt. And even if he puts his house in the trust, depending upon state law, and here we've got Florida law, at least where he's located, but California pertaining to the trial, it looks like he's going to have to sell everything to satisfy the debt first.
Wow. So anything that he had or owned before the trial, that still will have first position. So if he had a home before the trial where he was found guilty, they would have first position in collecting debt. Since the trial, the civil judgment came down, that then decides at the date of that which position that they would have. So it could be possibly third or fourth or fifth, but it's been second, third, or fourth for the life of that decision, right?
So the date that we're talking about, though, it pertains to the date of the debt, not the date of the assets that he has. So as far as the date of the debt, this is likely the oldest debt. And I did want to be clear. Some states will allow you to gift some things via inheritance. I don't know what the limits are for his state, but if they have certain limits, he may be able to leave a little something to the kids, but everything else will likely have to go to the victims.
I'm just sad about this. Come on, Attorney Ross, can't we come up with something like at least to make sure?
If I was OJ's lawyer, I would have given them a mechanism, and there are mechanisms to transfer your Florida house to your kids. There's a way to do it. Now they inherit the homestead, and you just live there as a renter, basically. $1
Yes.
a year.
I own a title company.
Give it $1 a year. So if the house is worth $3 million, $4 million, and you passed away, now the kids have that asset that belongs to them, and the Goldman family, fortunately or unfortunately, whatever side you are on this, can't attack that. Secondly, OJ better thank the NFL Players Association, because the NFL Players Association gave him a pension that was ironclad. He made between $125,000 and $300,000 per year every year after he retired, and the Goldmans could never touch that asset. So he did really well for a long time.
Okay, but does that end at his death, or will the kids be able to get the remainder of that's in his pension?
And that is the ultimate question. And that's why, and sometime we're going to come back and revisit this. I really don't know, because it depends. These guys get paid an annuity once a year. Sometimes they can roll it over. Sometimes they can take it in monthly disbursements. It's up to them. So let's suppose OJ still had $300,000 left in what he would have been paid for the rest of the year. The kids might be entitled to that, but I can guarantee you that Ron Goldman's going to be standing there with the bell and say, "Ching-a-lang, ching-a-lang. No, that money goes to me."
That's just so sad. All right, let's keep it moving. Anthony Edwards. All right, Anthony paid $100,000 for an agreed upon abortion, but the abortion never happened. He showed his receipts. He showed the wire transfer of $100,000 to the young lady because she was supposed to get an abortion. And he said that he was also going to help her out. So she got the money. She took the money. She has spent some of the money. Attorney Redwine, is she in breach of verbal and text contract?
So first I want to say, generally, the answer would be yes. This would be considered breach of contract, because for that, you need an offer, you need acceptance, and you need consideration, which is money here. All of those things took place. It does not matter. Some people say, but it wasn't in writing. Yes, it was. There were text messages.
Right.
Yes, text messages, DMs, emails, all of those count. But here, the legal tea is this. Now, whether it's what happened here or whether it was a situation where she actually got the abortion and he did not give her the money, you can't go to court over this. There is a narrow exception in the law where even if there is a breach of contract, if something is what's called void for public policy, meaning American justice system feels like you should never even be able to enter into a contract to do something that involves your morality, like an abortion or a divorce or prostitution for that matter, then even if you're wrong, you can't bring that mess to the courts. And that's what would happen here. Even if they went to court, they would get kicked out, no matter who comes to court on that.
Does it matter the state, Redwine? No. It does not. So this is across the board.
Theory. It doesn't matter.
If I hear you correctly, because this is a moral play, because it's an abortion.
Yes.
Yes. It actually had the question on my bar exam related to this. And it was a situation. It was a real court case where this woman was married to what her dad believed was a bum. The dad said, if you divorce him, I'll give you $100,000. She divorces him. Goes to dad and says, Dad, I want my money. Dad said, I'm not giving you that money. You should have never married him in the first place. She sues her father. The court says, we're kicking this out. It's void for public policy. You shouldn't be able to contract somebody into a divorce.
You know what's so interesting? We talked about, we're going to get in trouble on this show. We should be letting these women know that they could hustle up $100,000, right? I mean, I'm just calling a spade, counselors. I'm just calling a spade. You know, women could hustle up a whole lot of money and not have to worry about going to court even if they agreed. If I'm hearing you correctly, even if they agreed, they can back out after getting the money and say, "Oh, okay, I changed my mind," and there's no legal ramifications. Now, let me ask this:
support and everything else.
Let me ask this really stupid question: how about if he made her sign a contract? Does that still not matter,
Brian?
It doesn't matter. Like she's exactly right. You cannot contract for ratchetness. Let me just be that guy. Okay. You cannot contract your baby mama to have an abortion and give her $100,000 and hope it goes away. She can take your money, go buy a couple of Hermes Birkin bags, and not do anything. There's nothing you could do about it. You just can't contract the ratchetness, and that's what he tried to do. What's funny is he says, "What's the hold up? My lawyer's involved." What's your lawyer gonna do? Come on, man. There's nothing you could do. So he's out of luck.
So geez, is there any law protecting the man?
Yeah,
there is one. It's called put something on it. It's called put a hat on it. It's called pick a smarter person. On it. I'm not pick a smarter girl. I see why. I get it. She's fine, but come on, man.
But this is my thing. So now he's out of $100,000, and now he's got child support.
Oh yeah,
sure does. Child support. And his main girlfriend has found out, so he got to deal with his real girlfriend being upset about this.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Can he use that payment? Because remember, Symone, we talked about that your friend who did more and beyond. Can he use that payment and say that is a good faith payment for her and the child?
That is so clever. If I was his attorney, I would certainly
try to use that, right?
Yeah. She's going to say it's a gift, but that's going to be a hard argument because if a gift is not something in exchange for you doing something else.
Right.
And that money was in exchange for something else. So at a minimum, he should get $100,000 credit, right? And it's the state of Minnesota. And Minnesota it has very reasonable limits in the way that they set it. They set child support. So he might be good for 10, 12 years.
Yeah, I don't know how reasonable you can be when you sign a contract for $250 million. I mean, this guy, your child support is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty significant.
Minnesota has the form of the
It's going to be something.
Yeah, well, Minnesota has the form of the cap. There was a celebrity case. Gosh, I can't remember, but it was a rock star singer. And the woman wanted to get like $10,000 a month. And the court was like, a child doesn't need that. You haven't shown that this child has a substantial need for that excess. And granted, that woman, I want to say it was like $3,200 a month. It was something very
I want to say I can agree with you, Redwine, because remember, Prince lived in Minnesota.
That's right.
And remember the young lady I don't know if it was his wife, but I know maybe it was his wife. Remember, she was on that show. She was on that reality show. She talked about it, and everybody was talking junk about why her house wasn't glamorous. And she was like, I don't get that much support. There was a max to how much support she got, if I remember that correctly. So that makes perfect sense. All right, everybody, let's keep it moving. Jerry Jones. And how old is this man? Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, is being told by the courts, we need to know if you're shooting blanks or not. They are forcing him to take a paternity test. Now, tell me this, Attorney Ross, why are they making him take a paternity test? Are they making him take a paternity test because someone is claiming that she is pregnant or that she had his kid?
No, she is saying that she is his kid.
Oh, that's what this is.
The whole thing is she's saying that she is his kid. She wants to show the world that, and to tell you the truth, I have never understood why she is so obsessed with showing the world that she was Jerry Jones' kid, unless there's dollar signs involved in the backside of it. So maybe in the end, I mean, you could disinherit your children if you want to. There's a long-term opportunity she's thinking about, but she's been fighting tooth and nail for a long time to show that she is Jerry Jones' daughter.
And why wouldn't he take a paternity test if he doesn't think it's hers? And how old is she? And is she allowed back pay? No, right?
No. I think that she's 26 years old. Don't hold me to that number. But in the end, Jerry Jones was married. He had a whole life.
Still is to the same woman.
Still is. He's Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones' wife flies around in private jets. She's in Miami on 100-foot yachts. She's sitting field side in the box. She's not going anywhere. And she knows the backstory on this. But Jerry does not want it out that he has an estranged child for some odd reason. He just doesn't want it out there.
But let me clarify this. I somewhat disagree. Al, feel free to interject. You know, I didn't really take my ADD medicine today, but there's a lot to it. Y'all, this is one of my favorite messy tea legal stories because I'm from Dallas and I've been following this for like over a year.
Okay, go ahead. Let us have it.
Yeah. So, Brian, you said she wants to prove to the world that Jerry Jones is her dad. I
Yes.
actually think it's simpler. I think she wants to know for herself who her daddy is. Here's why. When she was conceived, her mother was married. Her mom was married to a different man.
Ooh.
And according to the records that the court records that I pulled, it actually stated that the mother thought that her husband was the father, but they had been estranged. So during the course of the divorce, now under Texas law in most states, if you are married, it is assumed that any child that's born during that time or that you're pregnant with is your spouse's. Most people, it's
Wow.
So
assumed.
that name automatically goes
Correct.
on your birth certificate?
Correct.
All of the above.
I didn't know that.
That man said, I think my wife is a hoe. I think she's been out here hoeing. I don't think that's my child, because they had been so estranged that they weren't really doing the do. So he said, I want a paternity test. That was unheard of in the 90s. They give him the test. It's not his.
Wow.
He is shocked due to the fact that Jerry Jones told her, per the court records, he had a vasectomy, and they never ever used protection. So that's why the mother knew it must have been Jerry's, because she was only with two men, but the daughter wants the confirmation because her mom was married to someone else. In turn, what happened was Jerry, and the mother met Jerry because she was the check-in clerk for American Airlines.
Hold on. Order in the court. Order in the cut. The tea is getting hot. The tea is getting hot.
Get your glasses and lean in, because when I drop this mic,
she was a check-in clerk. Where and what happened?
At the airport in Bentonville, Arkansas. Okay, Bentonville is where Jerry Jones is from. So she was like, oh, Mr. Jerry, I get to do it to him and what have you. So what he did, poor little woman. Oh, this is a Hispanic lady too. So he's got a Hispanic love child. I kind of really love that for her. So when Jerry realized this, what he did was he had his lawyers draw up this agreement. Now, this is an uneducated woman at the time. She might be making like around $25,000 a year. The agreement says this. It says, as long as the mother says she will never in her life make an attempt to confirm that Jerry is the father, Jerry was going to give her $300,000. That's just for the mama.
That's it? Or $300,000 a year?
Yeah.
For the mother, one time, $300K for the mother. Remember, she's only making like $20,000 back then. So that's a lot. Cheap. Plus, he was going to set up a trust fund for the daughter.
Okay.
Now, he did so. But here's the caveat of the trust fund. The trust fund gave the daughter money at 18, at 25. So she got two draws. And there's another one coming up when she's 28.
Yes.
But the mother signed the agreement, not the daughter. So what the daughter is seeking from the court is a declaration. It's called a declaratory judgment that says, hey, Your Honor, one, I get a paternity test, which they said yes. But two, if I make an attempt to find out if this is my dad, please confirm it will not invalidate my trust fund.
Right.
Ooh, there's so many layers to this, attorney Redwine. So, okay, I think I'm processing all this.
Yeah,
so the number one thing is she wants this paternity test because technically, if she could prove that that's her dad, she could strong arm him for more money.
I mean, not on any legal basis. On actually, like the statute of limitations and all of that had passed.
Well, I mean, I think in public opinion, she could, cause a whole big stink like she's doing now. And if he had any sense, he would call her right now and say, listen, let's leave this out of the media. Let's leave this out of the courts. You have documentation that I lied to your mom because I told her that I had a vasectomy. However, I didn't at that time. It's just so ugly. Like, I feel like she could probably get a little punch of money from him if she beats him, if she keeps playing in the court of public opinion. But if she just rely on the courts to protect one side, I think he would probably settle on the other, the non-legal side, for her to stop talking.
But the thing is, I don't understand her position in value. All right. Like, what?
You don't want to know who your dad is? I want to know who my daddy is.
If my daddy gonna deny me To hell with you. I'll see you later.
Come
No,
on,
no. Did my
attorney.
dad-
The
my
hell with
dad
all
You're
that
losing your
bullshit.
mind.
You're
Your
gonna deny
dad is
me.
Jerry
Bye.
Jones.
See you
Your
later.
dad is the
If
owner
my
of one
father
of
was
them.
in history
on,
books,
man.
I want to know.
Right.
who he
Your
is.
dad is like what? Your dad is like
Okay.
the
I
owner
had.
of one of the largest franchises in the
But
National Football League.
but wait. What do I get out of that?
Money.
The
First
law
of
is
all,
clear. Wait, the law is clear. You can disinherit your children. The law is clear. You do not have to give them anything. So
First of all, she
now I
lives
get
in
the
Dallas
paternity
now.
that says, yes, my daddy is Jerry Jones. What am I gonna do with that piece of paper? Go get some free
Right.
McDonald's? Am I getting tickets?
First of all, you know
Am I at
who
the
you
next
can't
Super Bowl?
sleep with. You know who you can't sleep with, right? I want to make sure I'm not sleeping with my cousins, this, that, and the third. She says in her petition that she lives 5 minutes from his house. She goes to SMU University, which is right next to Jerry Jones' house. She has to pass his house in order to get to school. And that this has been weighing on her. She wants to know where her father
So
is.
she's not
I
mental
can understand that.
distress.
Oh, but here's the other part of the tea, y'all. Here's the real mess. The
Okay.
mess.
Your mama signed your $375,000 contract. Go away. Bye-bye. Your mama took the money.
Well, my thought was, how the hell did all this come out, right?
Yeah.
So the tea is, this is how it came out. So Jerry Jones's daughter, Charlotte Jones, is the
The
president
real
of
daughter.
his real daughter.
Okay.
See, that's what she don't want to hear anymore. How you just
Charlotte is the president of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, right? She's over that. She's running. So people have seen her on the show. She is in the middle of a messy divorce with her husband, Steven. Steven was actually one of the head coaches, one of the coaches for the team. In the course of the divorce, the husband, Steven, makes a list of people he wants to post. He lists the love child mama. He lists the mistress.
No.
Yes. And then you have to put the person and why. And then he's like,
so dirty.
he would be able to speak to basically the fraudulent nature of and basically let it out. So, but for the messy divorce, this secret likely would have died.
This is
so has this girl been over his house for Thanksgiving? Like, what's the backstory? She the redheaded stepchild? Like, wow.
No, this is
the Mexican love child.
This is why I said, Jerry Jones, go back there, reach down in your pocketbook, get your checkbook, write that girl a check, so all of this go away. And I would write her a check and say, if I write you a check, you cannot agree to go into court against my daughter. All right, everybody, let's keep it moving. That was some good tea right there, Redwine. You always keep something in your arsenal to make sure we understand what's going on. Moving along to Xscape. Baby, this has gotten ugly, and I can't wait for Attorney Redwine to teach us on why and how Xscape, the singing group, is trying to escape Latasha. Now, Latasha is saying that she, along with her sister, Tamika, owns the trademark to Xscape, the name Xscape. Latasha's saying she is not giving anybody in that group permission to use the name to go on tour because A, she doesn't like them, and B, she's not going on tour with them. All right, Attorney Redwine, break this down for us and let us know why Latasha better pipe down, because she must have forgot, A, that this is a joint ownership of the trademark, which it means her and her sister. And exactly what does that mean, Redwine, and them having this joint ownership of the trademark?
Absolutely. So sure. So before I was a injury attorney, I was actually a fashion attorney. And I did fashion and trademark law. So this is my thing. And Al, if you cite any of my stuff on your show, I need you to give me some credit. Okay. So I get some clients. Let them know Attorney Redwine schooled you. So what it is with a joint trademark, it means there's at least two owners. That means either one of them has the right to license it for use, to grant somebody the right to use it. Think of it like this. If you have a roommate for your apartment, either one of you guys is allowed to invite friends over. Doesn't matter if you don't like the other friends. If that person wants to invite them over, they can. That's what's happening here. Now, remember, Latasha is, I call her the thieving sister. Allegedly, she stole her sister Tamika's like $30,000 worth of checks and stuff. So Latasha is estranged from the group, won't be on tour, and was trying to stop the group by, it's my understanding, sending cease and desist letters, etc., saying you guys can't tour with the name. However, that is legally false. So she's in trouble there. But secondly, the truth of the matter is the mark was previously applied for by all of the girls of the group. It was then like abandoned because they didn't renew it the appropriate way. And the mark should be owned by all 4 girls, not just the 2. But what happened is when it expired, it was the victim's sister, not the thieving sister, that said, "Oh, Tamika," who said, "Hey, we should renew this." So she went to her sister and was like, "Hey, we should renew this." They did, but the thieving sister never even gave her sister half the money to pay for the lawyers, even to this day.
Wow. So because she didn't help pay for it, technically Tamika can use the name as she wish. Is that right, Attorney Ross?
Yeah, she can use it as she wishes because she didn't pay for it. Exactly right. And the bigger thing about it is the timing of this lawsuit. Because they're supposed to have some tour this summer. I'm not sure if you're into their music. I love their music, still do. But they're supposed to have some tour with SWV this summer. There's a chance that Live Nation's lawyer could say, "Wait a second, we got to slow it down until we get clarification on this issue." And the timing is perfect because they're trying to force a settlement.
So sorry, go ahead, Redwine.
Oh, I wanted to give a little legal tea related to this.
Okay.
Which is that, so, right now, the only 2 names on the trademark are the 2 sisters. However, they just renewed it and filed the paperwork March 24th. If I were Candy and Tiny, I would consider talking to a lawyer about contesting what was just filed to get added. And here's why. They filed something that's called incontestability. Incontestability means they've been using it for over the 5-year period, blah, blah, blah. But this little stupid, when it was filed 2-3 weeks ago in March, you submit a specimen showing how you are continuing to use the mark. The specimen was a tour photo of everybody but the thieving sister. So that works. So if I were Candy and Tiny, I'd be like, look, no, there was fraud and there was misrepresentation. And those are 2 grounds to have the trademark amended to include them.
Wow.
I can tell you this. If I am Live Nation's general counsel, I am telling them, you guys are going to go through and redo your what's called an indemnification clause. We don't want any part of this. We got a great summer plan, but at the end of the summer, if a judge says, well, the trademark is this and you have to pay it, now we have to get involved in that. So we're telling them from the get-go, we're not getting involved in this. We'll support you on the tour. If they come after us for money, you're paying us back. That's what I would say.
I think that's fair. But I also think that one reason why Live Nation might be okay is due to the fact of the law that says any co-licensee, any co-owner can license it. Using that, proceed.
I really wanted to see SWV this summer too. I get so weak in the knees, I can hardly speak.
Order in the court, please.
Sorry, I went back to my teenage. My bad.
Calm down. Let's keep our decorum, please, in my court. Let's keep our decorum. All right, algorithms and soulmates, please hit that like button. We're looking a little slim there, like as if we're on a diet. Please don't forget, if you are not subscribed and this is your first time, hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, please, please, please hit the share button and drop down in these comments, because we love it when you guys talk back to us and let us know if you're learning anything tonight or if you're just enjoying the conversation. All right, up next, this man will never get any rest. We're going to talk about the fight over Michael Jackson's $2 billion estate, where his mother is battling with her grandson, who is Michael's son. Is it BG or BG?
Blanket.
Oh, well, that's what we know him as, Blanket, right? All right. So, Attorney Redwine, talk to me. What is going on, and why is the grandmother fighting with her grandson?
So the good news is it's not as bad as it sounds. And that's because the basis of this disagreement is that there was a prior lawsuit. We don't really know the details of it, but there was a prior lawsuit that the grandmother and Blanket, the entire estate, agreed should be brought on behalf of Michael Jackson's estate. They lost that lawsuit. And Miss Catherine, the grandmother, wants to appeal the ruling. However, Blanket says no, it's a waste of money and
Right.
resources. So the dispute is over whether or not to appeal. So they're not fighting each other. They just can't seem to agree on that.
So help me understand this, and this is what I've always wanted to know. She's of age, right?
She
And
is.
we know that he is the oldest child of
Correct.
Michael, and he's over 21.
Mhm.
Okay, why wouldn't the oldest child, because that's next in line, why wouldn't the oldest child take over being head of the estate? Why is the mother still head of the estate?
It probably depends on something that we have. I don't have, at least, Michael Jackson's last will. He named his mom head of the estate, obviously at an early time because his children were very young. And he trusts his mother to be, fortuitous.
Uh-huh.
And she actually is. If you think about it, she actually is fighting for the estate. But the problem is the other members of the estate realize that these lawyers are charging them $100,000 a month.
Mhm.
And so they don't want to be involved in paying for that anymore. They just want to walk away and be done. And whatever dad left us, we're good. But she doesn't want that. She cares
Okay.
about the reputation of her child.
So
and
I
what
want
he
to
stood for.
I want to correct something. Blanket is the youngest child according to Juliet Simonet. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure, so I can't even argue with you. But that's still, the question is, why isn't the oldest child? So you're saying that the oldest child, it doesn't matter, even if they're of age and they would be next in line. It has to do with what his will said at the time of his passing.
Yeah, because the oldest child could be stupid. Let's think about it. Old child could be dumb as
irresponsible.
Be out to lunch.
We all know one of those.
I mean, a person who dies, when you, everybody listening, if you have a will, the person you appoint to administer your will is called the administrator, the executor. If it's a woman, it could be an executrix. So it just depends. In this case, Michael Jackson's mother is the administrator of a very large estate, $2 billion. It's humongous, right? I mean, wow. And so she's managing a lot. Believe it or not, she has a whole legal team dedicated to making sure they're collecting royalties, that the grass is cut, that that the kid wants to go to medical school. It's a big job. So the kids are saying, look, grandma, we don't want you taking what we have, our small amount of money we left in our state, paying for lawyers to fight them. Let it go. And she says, no, we're not.
Got it. All right, Legal Beagles, I need to ask a personal question. When and what age should people be thinking about creating a will?
Yesterday. And I am speaking about this from the perspective of an injury attorney. I handle wrongful death cases all the time. Especially, you should do it yesterday, especially if you have any children and you're not married. Yeah. Because I have seen too many cases where the person dies in a car accident, unprepared. They leave children, and there's nothing set for what happens to your kids. Then, if we want to bring that suit to get you justice, the money is going to go to the baby daddy you hate.
Right.
Meanwhile, your mom is the one that's going to keep the babies, and it's a mess. And so I think people don't necessarily know it can be very inexpensive to do it. You can start in a small way. You can go to different resources and just ask for a basic will. Some law firms even have like a flat fee. You can do a flat fee basic will just to get you going. And later down the line, you can make it more in depth.
Okay, I want two things. So with the correction here is, if I'm reading the chat well, they're saying that it's Prince, Paris, and Blanket. Mm-hmm. So Blanket is the youngest. So why is the youngest even talking?
I mean, yeah, he has what's called standing. He's named in the estate, so he has a right.
He can still have a say, even though he's not the oldest.
Yeah, he has a right to talk about things. He has a right to say.
So he has the right to stand up. Okay, next question. Symone Redwine, counselor, talk to me about, because you do a lot of injury attorney stuff, the importance of insurance. Because I think our viewers and listeners need to understand, because everyone always says, when is a good time should I get life insurance? When should I get life insurance? Can you talk to us about the importance of life insurance as being a part of your estate?
Yes. So I say get life insurance as soon as you can. Many jobs come with a basic policy. That's always good. But you want to do it as soon as you can. But specifically, if you could do it before 40, your rates go up after 40. But you can lock in a better rate if you get it under 40. And there are policies that have cash value. where you can draw against it. You pull something from it that you could use to make a down payment on your home, etc. But again, if you have kids or debts, let's say you want to leave your house to your children, that life insurance policy can be used to pay off the debt of your home and your children to remain living in there, without a mortgage. So there's so many different things that you should do, but I certainly recommend life insurance because not only does it help your loved ones so they don't have to go fund your funeral, but it also gives you the option to draw against it.
Yeah, and also it adds to your net worth when the banks are looking over whether they want to extend credit to you or not. So if you have a $250,000 policy and you have a house that's $1 million, your net worth is 1.25. So they add that into your ratios as they calculate whether or not they want to lend money to you. Because in fact, that policy can pay off anything that happens and you're not able to pay the bank upon your demise. All right, everybody, let's keep it going.
Can I say one thing before you move on that from Al? One thing, last point. I know your audience is diverse, but I am aiming this at Black America, particularly Black American men. Unfortunately, over the last few years, for a long time, we've seen many of the men who look like me be assaulted or killed, shot by police for whatever side of the fence you're on that. I have a theory that in Black America, especially in men, we should all get at least a $100,000 life insurance policy. What would happen is once a couple of us cashed in on that because of some untimely death, the insurance companies would go in and fix the system. So if you don't have life insurance, try and make it a point to get life insurance as soon as possible.
I think that's very smart, Attorney Ross. All right, algoritmos, be sure to put your questions in the chat so that we can get to them tonight, because after this last story, we're going to come straight to you, our jury. Remember, next week, we're going to be calling on different jury members who are interested to join us live on the stage to talk about or ask any questions that they have relating to any of the topics. Last up tonight, we have Ben McLemore. Now, Ben McLemore, when he first came into the league, he was a draft pick, had a contract, 4-year contract of $13 million. All of that is at jeopardy now, and even his presence in the league, because he's facing 20 years in prison for rape. Attorney Redwine, please tell us what is going on with this player.
I don't really know much about this boy. However, I did see the accusations and the allegations, which are various forms of assault. And the first thing that struck me is that it was alleged to have taken place in 2021. So that was 3 years ago. It makes me wonder if that was, I don't know exactly how old he was, but if he was in college or something back then. But of course, it also more importantly makes me wonder, what was it with the police investigation that took them this long to decide they wanted to press charges? Because the victim may have reported it back when it happened. So all of that is just raises more questions. And it seems like we're going to be slowly learning more about it. But at this point, he's not in the league anymore.
No, he's still playing.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, no, he's still playing. And he came into the league in 2013. So we're talking, the assault happened 10 years after being in the league. Attorney Brion Ross, talk to us about the jeopardy of his NBA contract. That's the thing that I want to drive home the point with a lot of young, Black, successful, wealthy men when it comes to being accused of rape.
I mean, Ben McLemore's career was already on the downslide. What kept him in the league was his size. Ben McLemore, amongst sports writers, is largely considered a draft bust. He went to Kansas, which, if you know basketball, is a huge basketball school. He got drafted in 2012-13. I mean, a big bag of money, a lot of money. He was one of the faces of the league, and it just didn't work out for him. Miss Attorney Redwine brought up a point why did it take so long. Well, he went and played basketball in China. So you think about yesterday, we talked about service. How difficult would it be to serve a person in China, let alone if the incident happened in Oregon and you're playing in New York or California? So they couldn't just go to China. When he stopped playing in China and came back to the United States, they had a warrant for his arrest and they arrested him at the airport. So when he came, that's right. They arrested him at the airport. There you go.
So let me ask you this, because last night, right here in my courtroom, we said that the person who's trying to serve an individual can use the newspaper.
Yeah.
Is it because he was traveling internationally that using the newspaper would not work?
Well, remember, we did a great job of distinguishing the civil service and criminal
Oh,
service.
this is criminal. You're right.
Right. So it's criminal. So they don't just serve you in criminal, they just issue a warrant for your arrest and wait for you to show up. And that's what happened to him. So he's coming back from playing overseas. He's at the airport. He gets arrested there.
Wow. All right. See, that's why we got these two legal beagles, so that they make sure that we are definitely within the legal limits of knowing our rights and what's going on. All right. Let's go to our jury members. We have a few questions before we rotate and giving our verdicts on our stories. Let's start with, let's see, Quantres Pratt. The Bible says we are all cleared of our debts when we die. Is this true, my legal beagles?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm Catholic. I've never read the Bible.
I would say you're spiritually cleared of your debts when you die.
There's a separation of church and state, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Jazz would like to know, which company can be trusted for life insurance?
Wow.
I don't know, but probably not one of those people that harass you with solicitation calls. So they get
I
big
will tell you this, because I have worked with many of them. Always go and check their ratings.
Yeah.
Check their ratings, their business ratings. And I think as long as they are an A or an A plus, I think you'll be fine. Now, the ones that you don't want are those that fall in that C, that you're paying those huge premiums and they have you all in these locked blackout periods. So I think if you check the ratings of the company, as long as they're A and above, you should feel comfortable. All right. Because we do not want our people of color being afraid of buying life insurance because they don't trust it. It's a contract, and your contract can be withheld in court of law. So as long as you meet the terms of the contract and you outlive the blackout period, it's a contract. You will get your money. All right. Uranus Johnson, is that how you say it? Is it better to pay for funeral expenses at the funeral home rather than let the insurance pay for it?
There's no difference because it's all about the price, right? The price of the funeral, and the price of the funeral is set by the day that you pay for it. That's actually why there are plans when you can prepay for your funeral. Like I could pay today and lock that price in. So that I would say that would actually probably be the best bet.
And also, I have actually dealt with this on many occasions, more than twice, because both of my parents have passed along. And depending on the funeral home, they will wait until your insurance check is settled. You just have to sign a promissory note saying that upon receiving of your insurance policy, that you would make the payment to the funeral home. All right, next question. Kristen R says, if you put your home in a trust, will your beneficiary still be accountable for your debts? Good question, Christian.
It's a good question, Christian.
I don't know.
The answer is it depends on the type of debt.
That it is.
That's related to the home. Yes. If you have a mortgage on the home and you put in a trust, that would not relieve you from the obligation to pay the mortgage. They would go first. If you had an American Express card and you died and the home was in a trust, they would have a hard time attacking that because the trust is a living, breathing thing. But the mortgage would supersede the trust.
That's right. Good answer. That's correct. All right. Tina Rowland Jewelry said, Attorney Redwine, I have a question. If you get into a car accident, but the person who hit you doesn't have car insurance, where does the settlement come from? Is it worth pursuing? It would come from your insurance.
It comes from yours. That's why you're supposed to buy uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage.
Right.
Yep.
All right, cool. Is it worth pursuing? Well, if they don't have insurance, I think I would just file it under your insurance.
Yeah, there's no argument with your own. You just submit your expenses in your own. If you have uninsured motorist covers it. If you don't have uninsured, and that's probably where this question comes from, you can go on Judge Judy. You can do small claims court in the state of Texas. small claims court will now give you up to $20,000.
Oh, that number has changed. Okay, so let me ask this question, Redwine. So, can't her insurance, if she has uninsured, can't her insurance then go after the family on her behalf to recoup their money?
Absolutely. It's called subrogation. So her insurance can sue, and often will sue, the person who hit you, even though they don't have insurance. They'll literally sue that person and get a judgment against them. So if that person ever gets money, the insurance company gets paid. And that's another part of the value.
I love it. I love it when you break it down like that. Redwine. Woo, you're giving me chills over here. All right, next up we have Jay Williams. Jay Williams says, can Latasha go on a separate Xscape tour with New Girls since she's the co-owner of the trademark? Wow, you guys, this is some really good questions.
Brilliant. That's a great one. The answer is she could, but they couldn't sing the songs. So that would mess that up, because the songs have a copyright, and the owner of the copyright is the one that's able to license and say who can and can't sing the sons.
Wow,
Yes.
good answer. All right.
I think you saw this happen with the Temptations, right? So they had a split over who owned the music, right? And I went and saw their show. You had the Temptations and you had the Temptations Review.
Yes, I represented one of them. Yep, you're right.
All right. The Ultimate TV said, are you responsible for your parents' debt when they pass on? Ooh, really good question.
It depends. For example, if you want grandmama's house and there are liens attached to that house, you have to pay if you want it. If there's a mortgage, you have to pay the mortgage or the taxes and things like that.
Or the taxes.
Right. But her American Express bill, as Brian, you gave that example, you ain't got to pay granny bill. Not the American Express bill.
That's right. Now, as it relates to the credit, I learned that the hard way too. All right. Last question is Lene said, is it's standard practice for life insurance to conduct medical exams?
Well, that depends. I mean, that depends on the life insurance policy, insurer. So some do, some don't. Age. It just depends. That question depends on it.
Your history, your health history.
And let me give you a little piece of legal tea. If you have any concern about whether your insurance company will conduct an exam, what you should do first is, people don't realize, like how you have a credit history, you have a body history.
That's right.
It's not the CLUE report, but it's the equivalent of it. You can request a copy. It goes back 7 years of everything any doctor has ever diagnosed you with, because that is what life insurance companies use to deny you or set your premiums. And back in the day, it was what was used to determine if you had a pre-existing condition.
Yes.
Because it would go by that. And most importantly, for the girlies out there that want to go out and take Zepic and these weight loss drugs, semaglutide, all those, let me tell you right now, a lot of, you can go to a med spa and some girls are like, oh, I'm going to get it under my insurance. Baby, don't you ever. The reason why is because if you use your insurance, then that medical doctor must put that on your body report.
Right.
In turn, it means you're diabetic, etc. And you can never get life insurance again. If you don't already have it, you can't get the good kind. So that's why just go to the medical spa for your Zepic, because then it never goes onto the medical report, because you were never diagnosed by a medical doctor in a medical setting. This was cosmetic.
Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. Since we're at it, Attorney Redwine and Attorney Brion Ross, could you guys please let our algoriters and soulmates know how that if they needed to reach you for any type of legal advice, where can they go?
Thank you so much. So you can go to SymoneRedwine.com, Symone with a Y, or you can call 1-855-4-SYMONE or Attorney Symone Redwine on Instagram.
You can go to Brion. You can go to BrionRossLawGroup.com, or you can dial 954-334-1490.
All right, algoriters and soulmates, you heard it right here. It's time for us to give our judgment on the conversation and what would we call them, defendants or plaintiffs of the stories in which we covered tonight. First up, O.J. Simpson, who's died to the battle of cancer. Does he or does he not still owe Nicole Brown Simpson's estate $33 million? Attorney Brion Ross, what say you?
He does, unfortunately or fortunately, owe them $96 million.
Attorney
Guilty.
Redwine, what's your verdict?
He was innocent of the murder, but he is guilty of owing this money.
All right, and then me, the judge, we're going to find O.J. Simpson's estate guilty. Guilty is charged. Sorry, you still owe that estate $90-some million, even though you're no longer with us. So sad. All right, next up, we have Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards said he paid his $100,000, and he needs for the courts to uphold that this was an agreement and that this is a contract that he had with the baby mama. Court, what say you? Attorney Redwine, what are you saying? Is he guilty or not guilty?
He ain't got to pay because it was an immoral clause, a moral contract.
All right, so he had to pay. I mean, she doesn't have to pay it back.
Oh, that's right. She doesn't have to pay
She doesn't have to pay it back. Okay, so are we ruling for Anthony or are we ruling for the baby mama, Attorney Ross?
Even though you cannot contract for ratchetness, like I said earlier, it just seems wrong that she gets to keep $100,000 when she said she would do something. So I'm going to rule for Anthony Edwards. He should at least get his money back.
Yeah, get a child support credit.
All
Yeah.
right, in the court of public opinion, I'm going to rule in favor for Anthony Edwards only that he can use the $100,000 to offset any costs in his child support. So she can keep the money, but she don't get no more until that credit wears out. All right, Jerry Jones, your daughter or your so-called daughter wants the right to call you daddy. Attorney Brion Ross, are we giving her the right to find out if she can call Jerry Jones daddy or not?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I don't believe a man should disinherit his children, ignore his children. In this instance, he wants to do it. He got to deal with it when he get to heaven. Leave me alone.
Redwine, I feel contention in the court. Redwine. What are your thoughts?
Everybody deserves to know who their pappy is. He has to submit like JoJo from the hood would.
I agree. All right, in the court of public opinion, the judge is ruling in favor of the daughter. Yes, I think she should be allowed to request a paternity test. What's the big deal? She's either yours or she's not. So what's the big deal in showing why or why not she can't call you daddy? Next up, Xscape, the singing group, is trying to escape Latasha. All right, who are we siding with legally? Brion Ross, is it for Latasha or is it for Tamika and the rest of the group?
Latasha's getting robbed. I'm going with Latasha.
Latasha is the one that's been doing the robbing.
Allegedly.
Order in the court, Attorney Ross. So you pay attention. All right, Redwine, who are you favoring? Are we favoring Tamika or are we favoring Latasha?
Wait, the one that was, I'm favoring the victim, not the thief.
Tamika is the victim. Latasha is the thief. All right.
Allegedly.
That's right. Allegedly. In the court of public opinion, we're going to rule for Tamika. Tamika gets the right to use the trademark because Tamika paid the bill.
Y'all are double teaming me tonight. Y'all pre-planned this.
Order in the court, please. Order in the court. Next up, we have Michael Jackson's mother fighting her grandson, the baby of them all, Blanket. Who are we siding with? Are we siding with the mother or are we siding with Blanket? Because Blanket is tired of paying these high attorney costs. And he's saying, leave it alone, Granny. Granny said, no way. Y'all not going to mess with my baby's estate. Who are we ruling for? Attorney Redwine.
Granny.
All right, we got ruling for Granny. All right, Brion, redeem yourself. Are we ruling
Finally,
for Granny?
We agree on something tonight. We ruling for Granny. You better stick it for your son's legacy.
In the court of public opinion, Granny wins. Don't mess with Granny now. She still got that hair curl. I can see them rollers in her hair every night. Y'all better not mess with Granny when it comes to her baby, Michael Jackson. All right, last up we have Ben McLemore. Ben McLemore is facing 20 years in prison on forcible rape. Where are we with this, Attorney Redwine? What are your thoughts and what is your ruling?
We're going to let the jury decide.
All right.
Yeah, that part.
All right, Attorney Ross, what are you saying?
In this country, ladies and gentlemen, we have a presumption of innocence. Innocent till proven guilty.
All right, in the court of public opinion, we're going to leave it to the jury. And that's right, he is innocent until proven guilty. All right, that brings a conclusion to our incredible show. Please make sure before you sign out tonight to hit that like button. If you are a subscriber, hit that share button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. And please don't forget to leave a comment. And also, please join us back tomorrow in the replay and do the same. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and drop down into the comments. Until the next time, we'll see you next week in the court of public opinion. Have a good night, everybody.